Thank you for attending today's New York City Department of Education's Beyond Access Forum. This event is brought to you by the DOE Division of Specialized Instruction and Student Support and the Office of Digital Inclusion and the New York City School Library System. Special thank you to all of our partners. Be sure to visit their booths throughout the day. I'd like to take a minute to remind everyone to log into the conference using the link sent. I'd like to take a minute to remind everyone to log into the conference hub using the link sent in your confirmation email. Once you're logged in, you can visit a partner booth to learn about their offerings and book a meeting or live chat with them. Network with all of today's attendees. You'll also be able to gain access to conference resources, which is located within the resource section. You'll have the opportunity to enter our Passport to Prizes. Throughout the conference, you'll find several buttons to enter yourself into our Passport to Prizes. Each time you find a button, you'll fill in a form. You will earn one entry into the raffle. All entries are eligible for a series of prize drawings, only one prize per participant. We will announce the winners at the end of the conference. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions for our presenters during this session, please submit them through the Zoom chat feature. You'll have the option to turn on closed captioning by clicking Show Subtitle within your Zoom console. Be sure to use the conference hashtag NYC Schools Inclusion in your social posts. I'll be dropping in a link shortly after the screen share so you can submit a form for CTLE credit. And having said that, please join me in welcoming today's speakers.
Thank you, Navi, and welcome everyone to Connecting School to Home, resources to support learning at the home in the areas of transition, instruction, and promoting positive behavior. In this session, our speakers are the amazing Laurie Holden, Kevin Arnold, and of course, the incomparable Melissa Mancuso, who is being a gem and helping me by driving the PowerPoint. So we will get started right off the bat, and I think we kick off with Laurie. Everyone's going to have about 10 minutes to present around their sections, and then we should be able to wrap this up with a Q&A. So Melissa, if you have the deck, let me know when you're ready. You're muted, Melissa.
Yes, I'm just getting it up. Please give me one moment. I'm so sorry, Laurie.
That's okay.
And while Melissa cues that up and is sharing, Laurie joins us from one of our transitioning college access centers, the Queen Center, correct, Laurie?
Okay, that's correct.
I remember the opening like it was yesterday.
Time goes so fast.
All right.
Can everyone see the screen?
We can see it.
Great. All right, Laurie, whenever you.
Okay. I'm actually
not
seeing the screen.
There we go. Oh.
I'm sorry, I saw the screen and then it came off. So, all right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Laurie Holden, and I am the instructional lead from the Queens Transition and College Access Center. Our mission is the Transition and College Access Center supports schools and families by facilitating a seamless transition for students from school to adult life. All students are provided with experiences that foster their academic, social, emotional, and vocational growth and excellence, facilitating multiple pathways to graduation and success after high school. Our vision is through expanded linkages, targeted professional development for staff and student-centered learning opportunities. All students will be provided with experiences that will foster their academic, social, emotional, and vocational excellence and facilitate multiple pathways to graduation and post-secondary success. Okay. TCAC is student-centered, working with schools and developing partnerships with various stakeholders. With our stakeholders, we are preparing students for adult life, whether it's preparing to attend college, enter the workforce, or live independently for the first time. TCACS exists to help the students with IEPs achieve their goals and support the families and school staff in planning for their students' life after high school. We offer families support in identifying and helping with what the students need in order to be successful. We engage families in transition planning through family-centered workshops and information sessions. We provide educators and staff with ongoing professional learning opportunities for staff in the areas of college and career readiness and transition planning services. Our TCAC Community Engagement Manager works with connecting the community-based organizations with the students, families, and schools. And TCACS Work-Based Learning Coordinator works with business entities to support work-based learning experiences for our students. We connect with post-secondary institutions to ensure families have access and are aware of the requirements and the support available, including the College Office of Disabilities. Our goals are to develop and provide transition-focused information, resources, and linkages to students, families, and staff to support access and preparedness for college and careers. We engage in community-based organizations and businesses to establish, maintain, and increase work-based learning opportunities and employment access for students with disabilities. We facilitate students' access to college and career learning experiences that will support attainment of graduation, diploma requirements, and credential options. We support the administration of age-appropriate transition assessments to inform student-centered transition planning activities. We engage families in the transition and post-secondary planning process through student and family-centered workshops. We develop and lead ongoing evidence-based professional development for staff in the areas of college and career readiness and transition planning and services. We coordinate and facilitate work-based learning opportunities for students with IEPs to build vocational and pre-vocational skills and experiences. Our centers serve as student-centered resource hubs that offer trainings, workshops, and opportunities that provide the tools needed to plan for adult life. We provide a wide variety of workshops for our students, their families, school staff, and our community partners. We hold our virtual workshops at scheduled times and by request all throughout the year. We also provide workshops individually to schools during their staff meetings, at parent transition nights, and in the classrooms. Some examples of the kinds of workshops we provide are workshops for students or college applications, job applications, interview skills, resume writing, self-advocacy, self-disclosure. Some workshops for families are college applications, financial aid, connecting with agencies such as XSVR and OPWDD, and transition planning. We also have workshops for staff such as transition planning in the IEP, vocational assessments, academic and personal behaviors, and using work-based learning experiences to work toward the CDOS. As stated in our mission and vision, we support students in having this seamless transition from school to adult life. And in order for that to happen, we must have focused transition planning. So what is transition planning? So transition planning is that process that used to make sure that the students with IEPs are prepared for life after school. The purpose is to give a basic structure for preparing students to live, work, and play in the community as fully and independently as possible. And during this process, the school staff, family members, and our community organizations share information, agree on goals, and create a plan for the student's life after high school. TCAC works with the schools and families and the transition planning teams to consider the following areas: community living, employment, recreation and leisure, transportation, education training, self-advocacy, and independence. In order to support students in their transition plans, TCAC assists and/or provides students with work-based learning experiences. Work-based learning experiences have been shown to be one of the strongest predictors of adult employment success for students with disabilities when these experiences are provided early and often. So work-based learning provides students that opportunity to learn, observe, participate, and ask businesses questions about the skills and knowledge and the abilities needed to perform the tasks involved in a job. Work-based learning experiences are activities which create relationships between employers and schools to provide that structured learning experiences for students. It includes career awareness and exploration to career development and application. And it focuses on helping students to develop transferable skills for post-secondary education and the workplace. Work-based learning experiences may include the following activities: job shadowing, community service and volunteering, career-focused research projects, school-based enterprises, entrepreneurship, and community-based work experiences. Through these activities and experiences, students gain valuable information and advice. TCAC works with those schools to ensure that there is an educational component to support that work experience. So TCAC will connect schools and students with the community, businesses, and organizations and agencies to facilitate valuable work-based learning experiences. But in addition to that, TCAC has our own work-based learning programs. Our first program is called TOP, Training Opportunities Program. This program supports schools' efforts in providing work-based learning experiences that help students in their most measurable post-secondary goals. Students learn work and life skills that support their attainment of the CDOS credential, learn job readiness skills, career awareness, self-advocacy, and about health and equity in the workplace. So this year, we're happy to provide two options for our students, a fully remote option and a blended learning option. The program runs from December to April, and this is a paid work-based learning experience where students will earn a stipend. And one of our favorite things about the Training Opportunity Program is that many students who have participated in our program have been hired directly by their employers when our program ends. Another paid work-based learning experience offered by TCAC is Summer Youth Employment Program, SYEP. We work in partnership with NYCDOE to offer opportunities for our students to build and learn new skills, explore potential careers, and earn money. Depending on the age of the students, they engage in various project-based learning and workplace challenge activities while working with industry partners. TCAC's Summer Youth Employment Program focus was employability under the lens of equitable and inclusive civic engagement. The same as our top program work-based learning experiences, many of our SYEP students get hired by employers at the end of the program also. Our TCAC centers are located in all 5 boroughs, and we welcome the opportunity to collaborate with you, support you, and answer any questions that you may have. So please feel free to reach out to us. And so thank you, and we look forward to hearing from all of you.
Thank you, Laurie. It's so nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laurie. Is this you, Melissa, or is this?
This is,
Kevin?
yes, this is me.
Take it away.
Thanks. Hello, my name is Melissa Mancuso from the Special Education Office Instructional Team in the Division of Specialized Instruction and Student Support. In this segment, we will discuss instructional supports for students learning at home. So, as almost all students in New York City are experiencing at least some learning at home this year, whether they have opted to learn fully remotely or in a blended model. So before we begin this section, just as we do with our students, let's activate our prior knowledge about remote instruction for students with disabilities. Please type in the chat, based on your experience teaching, what teaching or lesson activities are best accomplished during synchronous or live instruction, and which teaching or lesson activities work well asynchronously or self-paced. So I'll pause for a moment while you share that in the chat. So I can see that folks are thinking about it. Nearpod for live instruction. Okay, independent reading works well remotely, and that can be asynchronous as well, self-paced. Breakout rooms for discussion can be live or synchronous. Discussion, sharing strategies. Yep, Jamboard, that's another one for live or for Jamboard, Nearpod. Okay, so I see that some of you are using all kinds of different strategies. So keep typing those in because the other participants on the call can get some good ideas from you. And we'll continue on. So today our focus is explicit instruction. Research shows that explicit instruction benefits general education students, English language learners, and students with disabilities. This is our focus today. As you can see, and as you know from your experiences teaching, we can do many of the same teaching functions that we typically do in person. We can also do them while we're teaching remotely. So this means we can provide robust specialized instruction for students learning fully remotely, although it will look different from their in-person instruction. So the example of this that we're talking about today is explicit instruction. And this is an overt, systematic approach to teaching with two essential components: a high level of teacher and student interactions, so 100% active engagement, modeling with explanations, demonstrations, think aloud, and supported practice with embedded and corrective feedback, and direct instruction of content, procedures, and strategies. This is the anatomy of an explicit lesson, which may look familiar to many of you. You can see the introduction, active teaching, which has 3 parts: modeling, or the I do, guided practice, or the we do, and independent practice, or the you do, and the lesson closure. When teaching remotely, you might do all of these sections during one lesson, straight through, the way you would in person. If the lesson objective, the target, skill, strategy, or content is laser focused, this could work, but we need to be mindful of our learners' attention spans and their stamina to engage in the digital classroom. Another way to approach this is to do some functions or some parts of the explicit lesson asynchronously or self-paced, so learners can engage at their own pace at a time that works for them, and then do other portions synchronously or live, so you can observe students and give immediate positive and corrective feedback. So where can we be flexible? What parts lend themselves to asynchronous activities? So the introduction, where we are sharing objectives, activating or building prior knowledge, checking understanding of that. We can do that synchronously or live, or asynchronously and self-paced. We could do that by using videos, text, discussion boards, chat messaging functions. Some of you mentioned this when you were in the chat earlier. The modeling, or the I do, that's when we show and tell, that's when we demonstrate and explain. That can be done synchronously or asynchronously. And we'll talk more about strategies for that in a minute, but we could use video or interactive slideshows to accomplish that asynchronously. Skipping down to independent practice and lesson closure, those could also be done either synchronously or asynchronously, depending on the skill, the strategy, the content, and the needs of the students. And so independent practice lends itself quite well to asynchronous work because it's self-paced. It can be submitted to the teacher for feedback later. This leaves guided practice. If we had to choose one part of the explicitly taught lesson that is best done synchronously, we recommend guided practice. This is the we do portion of the lesson, and there's currently no digital replacement for a great teacher. Observing students in real time, you can see where their work is aligned, not aligned to the objective, where they need tweaks. And the teacher can give immediate corrective feedback, immediate positive feedback. Like this, not like this, try it again, do it again. This is really the heart of where student learning takes place in the lesson, where the students are trying things with the support and guidance of their teacher. You can provide scaffolds, you can fade scaffoldings. It's a messy and magical time. Can you do it asynchronously? There are computer adaptive programs and online programs that try, but for closely observing student performance and delivering immediate feedback, there's really no replacement for a live teacher. It also allows you to do a flipped classroom, which is a blended learning model in which students experience the content delivery or the modeling or I do portion asynchronously or self-paced, and the guided practice or the we do portion synchronously or teacher-led. All right, so here we see elements of explicit instruction. And there are 16 elements in 4 areas: content, design of instruction, delivery of instruction, and practice. But we're just focusing on a few elements today that are bolded on this slide. Reviewing prior skills, providing step-by-step demonstrations, and providing examples and non-examples. So how can we support with these elements while students are learning at home? There are 2 main ways that we deliver instruction remotely: synchronously and asynchronously. And I know we've been hearing those terms a lot lately. And so synchronous is live and asynchronous is self-paced. We could think of these activities on a continuum like this, where certain activities offer more teacher control and interaction and other activities offer more student control and flexibility. And it's a trade-off, and there are benefits and reasons we might select each type, depending on the learning activities and the strengths and needs of our students. Synchronous instruction offers the most teacher control and interaction. Control because the teacher designs the lesson or activities specifically for individual students or groups in their class. And interactive because the teacher can involve the students in the model. So students can speak, type into the chat, use thumbs up or emojis. So the teacher can see how students are following along and can respond with positive feedback or correct misunderstandings right away. Customized asynchronous activities are created by the teacher and may be interactive. So like using interactive slides, Pear Deck is an example of this. We can start to see more student control and flexibility because these activities are self-paced. Curated asynchronous activities are ready-made materials that are selected by the teacher to align with learning objectives and needs of the students. They offer the most student control and flexibility because, again, they're self-paced. So students can pause, replay, move quickly or slowly through activities. Families often have questions about why we've decided to deliver instruction either synchronously or asynchronously. And the more transparent we can be about our instructional decisions, the better we can communicate with students and families and understand what's working and what's not working for our students and adjust. These are some tech tools and resources. And I can see some folks are familiar with tools like Nearpod, Pear Deck I saw in the chat as well. And tools to support synchronous instruction by video, conference, telephone, for customized asynchronous activities, some tools here with links for you, and curated asynchronous activities. There are many other places with excellent videos and content like Teaching Matters. Museums like the Museum of Natural History have YouTube channels with videos on all kinds of science and other content. And as always, with just as we would in person, we preview any content before assigning it to students to make sure that it aligns with what we want to teach, that it's appropriate for the student's age and developmental level, and we check for accessibility. So do we have captions if we need them? Does a podcast have a transcript? How would the student have a text read aloud? Things like that. So go ahead and type into the chat, what's one tool, resource, or strategy you want to learn more about or try in the next 2 weeks? I see some folks, Pear Deck. I know Pear Deck's a good one. I see some folks have also mentioned other Nearpod. Yep. So keep typing in the chat and I'll leave you with some resources here. The first link is instructional supports for students with disabilities in blended and remote learning environments. That is a resource created by the Special Education Office to support with teaching during blended and remote learning. It talks about explicit instruction and other strategies as well. The explicitinstruction.org website here is the website for the text of the same name by Anita Archer and Charles Hughes. It has videos at different grade levels and content areas showing explicit instruction, and there's a sample chapter of the book there as well for you. The High Leverage Practices website also discusses other practices in addition to explicit instruction, things like using assessment to adjust instruction, and also has videos. And there are lots and lots of resources online to support us with remote teaching. The Florida Department of Education has curated a wonderful list that is linked here. And on LearningStream, you can register for professional learning on explicit instruction, what we talked about today, specially designed instruction, quality IEPs, and more topics. And for more information about professional learning from the Department of Specialized Instruction Student Support from the Special Education Office, please email specialeducationpd@schools.nyc.gov.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
And rounding us off, we have Kevin Arnold from the Specialized Instruction team.
Hi, so my name is Kevin Arnold. I'm the director of the ACES program, which is an inclusion program for students with intellectual disabilities that is in the community district schools across the city. And today I'm going to talk about some strategies we can use to support positive behaviors at home. So I'm really going to focus on two strategies: providing choices and also using visual schedules and setting expectations for students, as well as providing some examples using some available apps and websites that can help with those strategies at home. So let's start with providing choices. Why does this matter? So choices really allow students to have their voice heard, and it leads them to become self-motivated in their learning. If students feel like they have ownership, if they feel like they have some say in how they do an activity, they're more likely to re-engage in activities and be motivated to come back to our lessons, whether those are blended lessons or remote lessons. It's also important to recognize that every child is different and needs are different, and having options to engage differently helps them kind of decide what is going to work best for them. It can be an option in how they respond to a lesson. It can be an option in how they do a practice activity in an asynchronous portion of a lesson. All of those things are areas where we can allow students to kind of make choices in what really matters for them. And then really, the most important thing is that giving choices may seem like it's going to be more difficult, but it's really going to enhance ownership and get students more engaged. So in the long run, we're getting more bang for our buck when we're giving students the opportunity to make choices about how they're engaging in learning. So when we're talking about choice making, there are 3 goals that we're kind of looking at. So the first goal is to teach learners how to clearly communicate their selection to others. Individuals communicate choice selection in a variety of ways, so they can verbalize, they can sign or gesture, and they can point or reach for a desired option. So this is really about helping students understand that they can communicate their needs and wants. Goal number 2 is to teach learners that selections will result in a preferred outcome, and that learners need to understand that their choices can impact their environment. So for our most basic communication needs, we're learning about cause and effect. If I do something, something will happen. So we're really building on that idea for students and helping them understand that when they're communicating something to us and they get something in return, they're affecting their environment. The more we can do that, the more students will engage and the more likely they are to be motivated to communicate with others around them. And then our third goal is to teach sophisticated choice-making skills and expand choice opportunities. This not only gives learners a greater feeling of control, but what it does is it helps us build on opportunities for communication and have students have more meaningful engagement with their environment and with their learning. So when we're talking about choice making, one option is called Sounding Board. So Sounding Board is a free app that allows program boards that students can use to select activities or objects. And these boards can have pre-recorded content, or they can be customized to have recorded content from family members or from teachers. This is a great option for students that have their own devices. It can also be done on a phone. And then if nothing else, we can print boards and send them home to families if technology is a difficulty. So boards allow for personalized recording photos and objects, and they can have 2 to 9 choices. This next slide shows 2 examples of boards. So the first board on the left is an example of something that we might use to provide options for activities. So in this case, the example here might be 3 math choices. So students may participate in skill building through a game, through a worksheet, or through a computer activity. Having students select the choice, they would get to do that activity and participate in the skill building activity that was curated by the teacher. On the right-hand side, this is the most simple layout for a board, and this is just a simple yes or no for students. This can be really where our choice making starts. Do you want this? Yes or no? And this is a great way for students to start to learn that they have more control over their environment. For example, you can build in break opportunities. Do you need a break from this activity? If they say yes and we honor that, students will begin to learn that they can kind of break away from just being forced into an activity, and that they have a little more say. And then hopefully that will build some of those positive behaviors that we're talking about wanting to support at home. Our next strategy is visual schedules. So why do visual schedules matter? Why do we use them? So student schedules really help define expectations for students. And visual schedules provide symbol representation of activities that will happen throughout their day. And so students begin to learn that this sequenced schedule is tied to the things that they'll be doing during their day. And it helps them understand how they're moving or progressing through the activities that will be required of them. This is just as important in school as it is at home. And so when we're talking about remote instruction for students, providing these visual schedules at home for families to review with their students can really help get them engaged with the activity and ensure that they're engaged throughout the day. Schedules also help build literacy awareness for students. So a visual representation or a word representation of an activity helps students start to understand that that activity is represented by that symbol, whether it's a word or a picture. And that's fantastic because then students can begin to transition that to literacy that's in their environment in other ways. It also is a great way to help provide redirection. Students, when they use visual schedules, begin to understand that nothing is permanent. And so the task that they're doing now might not be something that they want to do, but a preferred task is coming up. And so it helps students build that awareness that they do something now to get to an activity later on. And then finally, schedules can be used for small discrete activities, or they can be used for the whole day depending on the level of the student. And breaking those down is a really great way to help students build independence and understand that big tasks can be broken down into smaller tasks. So that brings us to our goals. So there are 3 goals that we're looking at when we're talking about using visual schedules. So goal number 1 is that students will begin to learn how to break down a complex task into manageable steps. Many of our students look at a task and say, whoa, that's too hard for me. Helping students understand that everything that we do has manageable steps is really critical. So writing an essay may be impossible for some of our students who need more support than that, but picking a pencil and getting a piece of paper ready is manageable. So breaking things down into those manageable steps can help students understand that they can do things independently, and it will help orient them towards a goal-oriented mindset. Goal number 2 is that students will develop independence with routines by following along with schedules to help support them in recalling necessary steps. So providing students with easily accessible schedules is a great way to develop that independence. They can follow along with the steps and they're not completely dependent on somebody telling them what's next. And the more they repeat these routines, the more likely they are to be successful in building that independence. And then finally, students will learn to anticipate requested actions and activities. Referring back to the schedule will help students regulate emotional responses to undesirable tasks by encouraging them to understand that the task will end and a more preferred activity will begin soon. And so this is a great way to help students understand that their day, there is some control in their day, and what to be expected is available to them at the beginning of the day if we present these schedules to them. I'm going to talk about 2 tech tools we can use to support this idea for students. So the first is Explain Everything. Explain Everything is an app and a website that allows for recording of narrated videos. What you can do is import pictures or take pictures using an iPad or an iPhone, and then manipulate those on the screen while narrating. This is great for creating schedule videos for students, and we're going to show an example of that. And then there's Nearpod, which Melissa talked a little bit about as well. But the great thing about Nearpod is that it is self-paced for students, and students can click through slides that have a visual representation of a step in a schedule, as well as directions for them. And so this is something that students can open up a slide and follow through to completing an activity, and it kind of gives them prompts individually so that they can follow along with those steps. So let's start by taking a look at an Explain Everything sample schedule. So on the next slide, we have a sample video that we can hopefully we'll be able to play. So I know, I don't know if we're hearing the narration, but what this narration would say is, so this is a student schedule for the day. So we would say, good morning to the student. Here's our schedule for the activity today. We're gonna start by, we're gonna start with reading, then we're gonna have a music lesson, and then we're going to do writing. The great thing about this sort of video for students is that they can replay it as they need to remind them of the sequence of events. And it can also be modified by the teacher throughout the day so that they can, look at their schedule as they go through it. And
Melissa, sorry, Melissa,
Yeah.
at the top of the share screen, there should be an option to share system audio. Sorry, Kevin.
No problem. If we can get the audio, that's great. Otherwise, we can also go on.
Working on it, Jose. I'm sorry, I'm looking through the options. I'm trying to get the sound and the video to go at the same time. Let me see if we can do this. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but
No. Thank you for
it's
being a trooper and sharing.
It's a track monitor. If you stop share screen, click share screen, you'll see two boxes at the bottom to optimize and share sound. If you click both, then click share, your audio will pull through.
I see.
Navi for the save.
Good morning. Today we have 3 subjects on our schedule. First, we're going to do reading, then we're going to have music, and then we're going to do writing.
So that's an example of a schedule video that you could post in part of your asynchronous day. So maybe during that introduction, if you're going to post in a Google Classroom, there's a video that you could post, or at the beginning of an activity. And then we'll go on to this. So this next slide gives an example of a sequence in Nearpod. So these would be individual slides for students and they would get to click through those. But this is an example of how to break down, a writing task to its most basic elements for a student who might be an early writer. So it introduces the activity, it tells them to collect their tools. In this case, the class that I was working with was using a web to create topic ideas. So they have a picture of that web, and then they're asked to write 2 sentences, and then it gives them an example on the last slide about how they can submit their work on Google Classroom and takes a screenshot to remind them, this is where you submit your work on Google Classroom. And this can, of course, be modified to meet the needs of individual students, but it's a great way to support. And if the students can't click through independently, it also helps give the caretaker who's working remotely with students an idea about how to support their students at home. So those are some examples of some ways that we can support positive behaviors at home and really remind students that they do have some control, even though this time of blended learning can be very difficult.
Thank you so much, Kevin, Melissa, and Laurie, for spending the time to share some best practices. And thank you for everyone who joined. We have a couple of minutes left, and I think we can just take 1 or 2 questions from the chat if anyone has any questions they want to ask. If not, we can wrap this up a little early and you can all check out the vendor hub. So yes, you will all, this is session is being recorded and you will all have access to this session afterwards. All you have to do to come back to this is and to look at the presentation and everything is log back into the event hub. Let's see, how do we sign up for TOP for students? Laurie, is there a link that you can drop in the chat for the TCACS site that shares information around TOP?
Sure, I'll put the, or it's on actually the last slide, but I'll put in our addresses. Our messaging hasn't gone out yet. It should be going out any day now.
Thank you.
But feel free to contact any of the TCACS Center from the borough that you work in or where your students are.
And the generic or the general TCAC email address is?
I'll put that in the chat.
Thank you. For CTLE credits, there's a survey you can fill out. And I think someone has just dropped it into the chat. I think Navi, yeah, Navi just dropped it in for us. just fill out the survey and you'll receive your CTLA credits for this. So thank you everyone who hopped on. Thank you for joining. And if you're gonna stick around for assistive technology, I will see you all at 1:30. Have a nice break. Check out the vendor portal.